Okay, let's start video number 2 for Jimbyrd. My series is called the Technology Essentials for Everyday Living. And if you haven't seen volume 1, I'd suggest that you go back and take a peek at that. For volume 2, we're going to cover the second main part, which is the part on the phone. And I have that broken into 3 subsets. We have the landline, we have the flip phone, and we have the cell phone. With the landline, we had what we called POTS, which is plain old telephone service. And most of you know landlines, which are really analog telephones. We could go back historically with what we call the magneto ring-down phone, which you've probably seen in old movies. And then they had what they call the candlestick phone, which looked like a candlestick, and the speaker was on the stick, and the receiver that you listened to was like a cup you took off the hook on the candlestick and put up to your ear. And then it had a dial pad on the bottom of the more modern candlesticks. And then we got up to the rotary dial phone, which most young people don't know what they are, but you stuck your finger in a little hole and you went around partway around a circle to dial different numbers. And then after that, we had the landline with the touch key pad, which basically looks like a lot of touch pads today, except the keys were individually sticking up. And a update to the landline basically was what we call the cordless phone, which a lot of people still have today. And the cordless phone works on a frequency that is more or less about the same transmitter or wattage power as Wi-Fi. In other words, you could walk around your house with a cordless phone, but if you started walking out in the yard, by the time you got perhaps 50 to 100 feet away from the house, it wouldn't work. And a cell phone has a transmitter in it and a receiver, compared to a cordless phone, which also has a transmitter and a receiver. The main difference is that if you have a cell phone up to your ear, it's about 600 times stronger than the transmitter that's in the cordless phone. So keep that in mind. The phone after the landline basically is the flip phone, and the flip phone obviously some people still have and like, but basically it's only good for 2 things: telephone calls and text messages. Some of them you might have been able to send a picture or something like that. And of course now we have the cell phone, which is also the smartphone as it is today, because it's a more powerful computer than most of your laptops or your desktops. And it can do a lot of things. It has all kinds of apps. You can use it just like your tablet or your desktop or your laptop. You can go to the internet and do anything that you want. And if you're at home, you don't have to worry too much, because the signal's usually strong enough for whatever, because you're probably using your phone, your cell phone, through Wi-Fi. And if you're on the road, then you're using your cell phone through the cell towers. So if you use a data contract where you pay for going through the internet, through the cell towers with your phone company, then you want to watch how much you use that. With a lot of the cell phone providers today, they have unlimited data, and that needs some qualification, because it's certainly known that if you start watching movies on your cell phone as you're going down the road or whatever, the phone companies will catch on to that and typically throttle your unlimited data back to smaller bandwidth. In other words, you won't be able to do all the things you'd like to do comfortably. If you do pay for data, then the important thing is, when you're at your house, is that you make sure that you have, of course this assumes that you have internet. If you don't have internet, you can't do this. But if you do have internet, most people then also has a router for Wi-Fi or wireless, and then you can use your cell phone wirelessly, and I would recommend that. If you're, there's two types of phones basically. Well, there's three types. There's Windows smartphones, but it only has like maybe 1 to 3% of the market at the most. So I'll just talk about the Apple phone, the iPhone, and the Android phone. They both are about even. So about half of the phones out there are Apple phones, and about half are the Android phones. And of course, Apple are made just by Apple, but the other half, Android phones, are made by a plethora of manufacturers. I won't bother to name them, but there are just probably 20 manufacturers of smartphones that use the Android operating system. That's the end of volume 2 or video 2 of the Jimbyrd Technology Essentials for Everyday Living. And remember, anything you want to find out, you can go to YouTube. So remember, YouTube, YouTube, YouTube to find out how to do anything. And to preserve your data, remember, backup, backup, backup. That's all for now. Jimbyrd signing off.